Welcome to Mr. True Crime. Today's video is an in-depth look into the disappearance of the Godard family. It's a tale of scattered clues and speculation. If you're triggered by anything dealing with death and/or harm to children, feel free to click off this video. Perhaps check out my gaming channel, Retail Me Games, for some lighthearted content. If not, I'm Nicole. Let's get started. Bernard Chasles of Pointe de Jouvigny, France, was the last to see Dr. Yves Godard leave his home on September 1st, 1999. The acupuncturist told his neighbor that he was leaving for a few days and to take care of his cats. She states that she saw him and his two children climb into his Volkswagen camper van. She can't recall seeing his wife, Marie France. It was his style. He loved to live in hiding, says Bernadette's husband in a loose translation. At home, there were never any visits, never anyone, except for their two children and the two children of his wife. The family were supposed to return 5 days later, but they never would. At least, not the way they left. Yves Godard was born in Paris on June 2, 1955, to an expert Breton psychiatrist. He grew up in Saint-Baraque-sur-Mer in Les Hautes-Vilaines. From here, he learns how to sail and becomes a sailing instructor, but his true passion resided in helping others. So, in 1974, he enrolled at the Faculty of Medicine of Caen, France. A little while later, he married Jeanne Tournelle, who now runs a nursery, and together have two sons. It's uncertain how affectionate the marriage was, but it didn't last. Now living in Caen, Yves partners with Dr. Pierre Coulson, and in 1984 develops a thesis with friend Dr. Robert D. for the treatment sciatica, with acupuncture inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. He stated he didn't want to oppose Western and Eastern medicines, but on the contrary, show their complementarity. This thesis received him honors, but his practice soon took a nosedive. He began to take part in instinctotherapy, which consisted of eating raw meat, along with medical astrology and using a psychic. To further assist his patients, Yves began to prescribe dilutants of immunoglobulins, or antibodies, and treated heavy diseases with the 3 acids method, and prescribed drugs banned in France. Despite his good intentions, his medical license was suspended for 2 to 3 months in 1992 for illegal practice of pharmacy. He looked to the medical community for support, but it barely came. He cut ties with Dr. D and began his own practice. Though he was now in debt for a few tens of thousands, the one bright spot was his new wife, Marie France. Marie France and Yves married in 1994 at the Town Hall of Tilly. The couple were described as intimate and rarely fighting, and welcoming to not just Yves' now teenage children, but Marie France's as well. She had 2 children, a teenage boy and girl, from her own previous relationship. For a time, Marie worked as an assistant at her husband's practice, but she had her own passions and desires, one of which was another man. Allegedly, Marie had grown depressed of her husband's work and felt abandoned, so she began to see a therapist, one she happened to fall in love with. She recorded all of her fantasies with her doctor in a diary. For how long, I can't say, but the doctor in question swears he didn't have an affair with her, and instead instructed her to write down her feelings in a diary. The day before her family would disappear, she arrived home at 4:30 p.m. It's possible Yves found the diary, because the night prior to the family's departure, the two had an intense argument. This would be the last anyone heard or saw Marie France Godard. The next morning at 8 a.m., Yves has packed and prepared the car. He tells Bernadette he's leaving as the children, Camille and Maurice, hop inside. After final words with Bernadette, Yves pulls out from his home and travels to St. Malo 2 hours later, parking his car in the parking lot, and rents a 9-meter Sun Odyssey 30 sailing boat called the Nick from Mr. Herault, director of Alet Club Cruise. Mr. Herault was expecting Yves as he made plans to go on a sailing trip as far back as August 15, 1999. Karen M. had an appointment with Dr. Yves on August 27th and stated, I did not notice anything particular. He was always the same, calm, modest, not easy to decipher, an excellent doctor, and a monument of composure. The following week of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of September were full of appointments. It didn't appear that Dr. Yves considered taking a leave of absence or a vacation. The NIC was equipped with mandatory safety gear, including a VHF radio. He informed Hérault that he was going on a cruise to Perez-Guirec and will return Sunday, September 5th. On September 2nd, between Cape Frahel and Iroquois, a customs officer carries out a routine check of the boat. Though everything seems to be in order, he notes the feverish behavior of Yves. Other reports state that the officer found Yves weird, uncooperative, and speaking little. He also finds either Maurice or Camille or both children drowsy or asleep inside the boat. The officer sends the family on their way. September 3rd, the family bought waffles from a vendor. The following day, the NIC is seemingly abandoned near the Pont des Médards in Polizec. On September 5th, the Godards haven't come back, but instead the appendix, an inflatable boat that allows you to disembark, of the NIC is found, floating north of the island of Bats. On board is a jacket, and inside the jacket is the checkbook of Yves Godard. Still no word days after the Godards were supposed to return. An investigation begins September 8th, with police searching the home of the Godards, and what they uncover raises more questions than answers. In the bedroom, bathroom, and the living room of the Godards' Normandy home was blood splattered on the walls. The car parked in St. Malo also housed blood that was cleaned. The owner of said blood? Marie France Godard. Everything seemed normal until he reached the room, where under a green quilt curled up in a ball the mattress was covered in blood. Traces of it on the wall had been wiped off, and a red glove was still in the sink, said Mr. Michel, French investigator. The investigation turned from a missing family to a homicide, with Dr. Yves being the prime suspect. The initial theory was that Yves killed his wife and dumped her body in the English Channel. Deeper investigation revealed the trunk of the car contained a medical kit, doses of morphine, 2 bottles without labels, and a bottle of whiskey. On the day the family boarded the NIC, Yves bought cleaning products and mops in St. Malo. On either September 10th or 13th, an international arrest warrant is issued against Yves. Authorities drag lakes and dig fields near the family home, but Marie France's body has never been found. Friends and witnesses of the Godards describe the family in high spirits and niceties, but when headlines and reports accuse Dr. Yves of killing his wife, their tunes change. They remark that Yves was unpleasant, while his wife was friendly. A waitress stated how the doctor never spoke to her, but his wife always made an effort to wave. Days later, on the 16th, a life jacket from the NIC is found off the island of Alderney, about 100 kilometers from the Bay of Saint-Barac. Former boat captain Francois Sequin found Yves' selling of the 9-meter boat confusing. Already leaving with 2 children on the 9-meter is a mistake. If the doctor wanted to embark on a long crossing, it would have taken a 12-meter at least, and the company imposes a heavy preparation, refueling, water, fuel for several weeks. Not to mention that, even experienced, this navigator has 2 small children. What becomes a headache when, without autopilot, the owner confirms that there was not one on board, we are forced to bar almost without stopping. On September 23rd, the life raft of the boat is found half deflated near the British coast of Dorset, the raft's tow line cut. In June 2000, a fishing boat discovered a travel bag off the island of Bats containing children's clothes, a 2-piece swimsuit, a nail hammer, Marie France's ID card, and her husband's driver's license. 5 months later in June, a child's skull was dredged up by a fisherman in the Bay of Saint-Barac, the same place the life jacket was found. Another larger skull was found, presumed to belong to an adult, but the fisherman, confused and shocked, threw it back into the sea. The skull was analyzed and linked to Camille Godard. Scientific analysis concluded that the skull had been there since February 2000. For the remainder of 2000, the case goes quiet. Then, between February to July 2001, 5 professional and bank cards belonging to Yves are found on the island of Behance. Forensics determined the cards hadn't been in the water long after discovery, indicating they couldn't have been dropped into the water in 1999. The location of these items were too close a coincidence for investigators, who believed it was placed deliberately. The family's lawyer, in a loosely translated article, said, "How could these cars have arrived in the same beach months apart? Impossible. Everything was done to stimulate a shipwreck." They believe it was the work of an accomplice. The Navy released similar objects in different places to see where they end up, but there were no conclusive results. Around 2003, authorities arrived on the Isle of Lewis to make appeals for help on any sightings of Dr. Godard and his children. This idea to travel to the Western Isles were put forth in anonymous letters sent to French police in 1999, claiming that Yves was seen boarding a ferry in Lewis with his children. The same source also made claims that the family had been seen in the Isle of Man. A hoteler claimed that he hosted the family in mid-September, but international protocols hampered investigations. No matter, Commanders Philippe Waxin and Thierry Lezieux issued posters and descriptions of the family in hopes of jogging memories. Detective Inspector Gordon Greenlist said, "In particular, I would appeal to hotel and guest host proprietors, taxi drivers, employees of harbors, airports, car rental firms, or the retail trade to examine the photographs of Yves Godard and his children, and to contact Stornoway Police Station if they recall seeing any of them. If someone saw a Frenchman and his 2 children on the island at the time, they may well remember." The French police are following a number of lines of inquiry, as well as looking at the links with Scotland. Along with the letters came witness reports from Thailand, Miami, and South Africa. Authorities traveled to these locations but came up empty. Perhaps there was a reason for their dead ends. In October 2006, on the coast of Roscoff, a trawler recovered a femur and tibia later identified as human remains of Yves Godard. With Yves declared dead and no other evidence or reports established, the investigation was officially closed in September 2012. Still, that doesn't stop speculation. Author Eric Lemasson published L'Ascent du Dr. Godard, The Murder of Dr. Godard, in 2011 that connected a link between the disappearance of Yves and the assassination of Christian Poquet and the Herat in 2001. In a loosely translated interview, Lemasson explains that Yves wanted to start over due to his debts and planned to disappear, leaving behind clues of an assumed shipwreck. He goes on to say that Marie France disturbed his plans when he informed her that he was leaving, and so he either killed her or they simply fought. The sudden fight caused Yves to take his children with him, something he originally hadn't planned. Yves, it would seem, was a member of the Committee for the Defense of Merchants and Craftsmen, CDCA. This is the link between the two, as investigators question Christian and Maria Mendez as how they managed to evade taxes and the relocation of companies with Yves having a bank account with them. This membership is in line with him passing through the Isle of Man, a tax haven that shared close ties to the CDC according to Lemasson. But there was a problem. Yves had been cheated, and his money was now gone. He shook the coconut tree, as Lemasson put it, and was subsequently killed. No other remains of the Godards have ever been recovered, and Maurice Godard is still missing. A cause of death has never been established for either family member, though theories have been put forth of a hammer to the skull or a shipwreck. With new evidence, it is possible the case can be reopened, but for now, it stands idle. However this family died, I hope they managed to find peace, and hopefully one day their deaths can have closure. I'm Mrs. True Crime, and remember to be kind, be loud, be aware. For more information about the disappearance of the Godard family, why not check out some of these awesome links? And if you like what you saw and heard today, why not drop a like and a comment? Maybe subscribe while you're here? I make new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and you won't miss what's in store.